I hope everybody had a good lunch. You enjoyed that? And I'll tell the world Washington College Dining Service is the best. We are continuing to get texts and messages from all around the world, which is great, which means the audience is getting bigger and bigger, which is wonderful. Our next speaker, this is Fred Honebein. I met Fred quite a while ago. He was with the national team, just won the world championship, yay, yay, blah, blah. And the nice thing about Fred, from my perspective, I can say this, is Fred's not very good at basketball. And the way I know that is because I beat him and I'm terrible. So I just throw that out there.
Now, of course, every year, Mike, every year. Thank you. But truth be told, I did beat Mike. Of course. Am I starting? All right. Thanks, Mike, for having me here again for the third time. When Mike contacted me, or when I contacted Mike about coming back, he asked, oh, so what do you want to talk about? And I took some time. Last year I spoke about the national team and being in New Zealand in a photo essay, which was all well and fine. But over the last year, I've had the privilege of going out with coaches and thinking back of some of the things that I did as a coach and what some of the coaches are doing now, or some of them focus on. And in one of the workouts I went out with, Tom Terhar was talking to his athletes about ankle flexibility. And I went, oh, interesting, that used to do the same thing. So it got me thinking, and I sort of looked around and didn't find any information on it, especially as it pertains to rowing. And so I sort of thought about it, and when I first talked to Mike, I said something to the effect of flexibility and speed, or its relation to speed. And that unfortunately would be a wrong characterization, because it's not a magic bullet to make the team go faster. It's just something you can do to help your team get a little bit better, or to work on maybe a problem that your athlete has that you'll see in a couple of the videos that I'm going to be showing. So the first thing, and I found this video on YouTube. You can find a lot of stuff on YouTube. And I have no idea who this guy is, but it sort of personified or was showing what I'm talking about. So as you watch this guy, as he's coming forward, his ankles are coming up, okay? Not a big deal. But as you watch his hands, as he takes the speed of the wheel, you can see there's a little bit of a give. See it? Right there, okay? So what happens as a result of that is he's not putting pressure on the foot plate or on the footboard in order to get the speed going. Okay? And so, in essence, he's forcing the work or the load to be taken with the upper body. So he's coming forward, his heels are coming up, he's engaging, he's got that little bit of 5 inches, and then he's taking, and it's all in the upper body. Now watch, okay? The great thing about this video, see the transition? He's going for a sprint. Now look at his feet. They're down. Now watch his hands. He's rowing shorter slide, but he's rowing actually longer. His length is a lot better on the take. Okay? So now, if we move forward, oops. This is brought to you by Concept 2, by the way. Thanks, Pat. So this is Karen Davies. Again, another video I found online. Now just watch her ankles and her flexibility. Pretty impressive. Feet are flat. There's a little bit of a gap. It's hard to get rid of that little bit of gap. But just watch how she takes. And as a result, the load is going to be taken across here, which every coach strives for. Pushing rather than pulling or heaving. Okay? So that's sort of where I thought about this as a topic to discuss, because it's something that can help. You can see as you're watching your athletes on the erg, you see somebody who's heaving or opening up with their body. Lo and behold, it could be that maybe their ankle flexibility. It could be a way to fix it. Okay? And so moving forward with this, one of the things I did, one of the best things about my job is I get to go to the World Championships every year, and every now and again I get a little bit of time. And I actually went to the erg tent where all the national team, or where all the elite athletes were coming in. And I had about an hour and a half, and I just sat there. and I watched the athletes as they came in. I just watched the ones that had really good flexibility and the ones who didn't. And I didn't really know who their names were. You sort of get an idea of where they are and placement, and then I was able to go watch them on the water. And lo and behold, what I found is what they did on the erg is exactly what they did on the water. And so again, the thing that I'm bringing up with this is it's just another tool or another thing to sort of put into your quiver, if you will, of things to work on with your athletes. And, you know, all people are saying now is like, oh, great, another thing I have to work on. I have to get them to erg, I got to get them to, you know, time constraints and all that kind of stuff. And I'm here to tell you that it's really, really simple. It's a really simple way to help get flexibility with your athletes. I'll show you one stretch, and it's the only stretch they'll have to do, in my opinion, because it's the only stretch I ever did. So why should a coach emphasize ankle flexibility? Well, I went over a lot of the reasons. Slide control. You could see in that video with Karin, she was just coming in. When I'm on the erg now, like I'm able to keep my feet flat. I come in. It's easier for me to come into the, you know, to ease into the catch rather than to accelerate like we saw with the first guy. Catch end length, shown in the video that we just saw. Balance. Now, this is something that I didn't touch on with the videos because you can't really on the erg. But one of the things that it does, that happens as a result, when your heels stay down and your feet stay down, the center of gravity is down in the boat. It's perceived ideal that, you know, maybe it sort of has some voodoo to it or whatever. But the fact is, like what I found in my rowing that I've done, when my feet stay down, I'm able to come forward and not get into a really uncomfortable position, okay, at the front end. And I'll show you a picture here in a minute. And then, like I said, it eliminates the lunge at the catch, the opening with the body, and missing water and the power application. So what should you, the coach, be looking for? This is what you should be looking for. If you look at this power lifter who has to lift a ton of weight over his body, look at his feet, look at his ankles, look at the position that he's in. Core is strong, arms are strong, the whole position is super, super strong, okay? And again, I found these all online. I just did ankle flexibility and found all this stuff. So I'm sort of a poacher. You look at this guy, and if you were to put that amount of weight over that guy, he would collapse. It would be just like a house of cards, okay? And so, and in essence, as what you're looking at is, if this guy was a rower, okay, you know that if his ankle flexibility is good, his body flexibility, he's going to be in a much stronger position. This guy, not so much. In order to make up for his shortcomings, he has to pull his butt underneath him and be on his toes. We've all been there when we're lifting, when we're squatting. We don't squat with our toes up or with our heels up. We squat with our heels down, okay? So here are the pre-workout stretching exercises, okay? The squat stretch. And all these stretches are, Mike put together, I had him photocopy all this. So all this stuff is in your bag, so if you want to take a look at it. Deep squats, squat stretch with partner, calf raises on stairs, and jumpies, okay? That's it. You can incorporate these two things into a pre-workout ritual if you want. And these two, the squat stretch actually you benefit by doing these other two stretches, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate them now. Allison, you see around? Come on up, Allison. Allison works with US Rowing with me, and the other day I was talking about this talk, and we started goofing around a little bit. So here we go. So this is what we're trying to achieve. Here, why don't we jump up on the stage? Okay? So what I'm talking about, or what you're looking for, is this. And it looks simple. And you can sit there, and after I finish my presentation, go and try and do it yourself. Some people, no problem. You'll sit there. I can sit like this for hours. I can rock back and forth, do the whole bit. This was my stretching routine before practice. I'd have my cup of coffee. I'd sit like this because I was exhausted, and I'd just drink my coffee, not knowing what the hell I was doing. Allison? Kinda. But you can see that she's back, and it's pretty uncomfortable. How long could you sit there? Not very long. What? We'll just stand there. Hey, the clock's going, so she can do it. But the point is, like some people, like it's just simple. I can get down in this position anytime. Some of your athletes, they'll get like this. And they'll start to go down, and then they'll fall backwards. They'll go ass over tea kettle back. No joke. And thank you. You did a great job, Allison. So in essence, like that's what you're looking for. And it's a simple stretch. As they're stretching, just incorporate it in. Now, going back to deep squats and then the squat stretch with partner, the athletes that you find that can't do it, you have them hold the hands of their partner, and then they just go down. And then they balance each other out, so they can sort of hang there. And it's a twofold stretch, really, because you get them back further, and as they start to fall backwards, their shoulders extend. And they get the idea of hang rather than tense. So it's a twofold aspect of what you're trying to do. Yeah? As long as they can. I mean, I used to, when I was coaching it, when I was doing this, I would have the guys would show up at 3 o'clock or something, and they'd start their stretching, and meeting time was always like 3:10. And so at 3:10, we'd have our pre-meeting, and most of the guys would have, when I was really on this, they would just sit there. I got them to the point where they would just sit there, and while we were having their meeting, they were in their position. And it took, I can't tell you how long it took to get them to that point, but I can tell you that in the beginning, like it was sort of a parlor trick. I'd show up at practice, like first, maybe second week or something when I started to implement it. And I'd go, okay, who can do this? And I'd go down and I'd start rocking. And sure enough, then, competitive aspect, all these guys, and they're falling all over and they're laughing at each other and stuff. And then if you just kept on it, they would work on it. And lo and behold, it did help. I mean, how much did it help? How much speed did it give you? It goes back to what I originally said. I don't know. But what I do know is what I showed you in those 2 videos. You have 2 complete different styles. I'm sure Chris Korzanowski could argue something different, and I know there's coaches that can argue something different. Like for me, this is something that worked as an athlete and as a coach. And that's the whole, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent because I have a little bit of time, but that's what these things are about, is learning things. Sometimes you learn what to do, and sometimes you learn what not to do. And that's the job of the coach, to always evolve. And to always evolve and to learn new things about coaching and what to do and how to do it better. Or worse, and learn from it. So, okay. With the calf raises on the stairs, so these are back to our squats, so that's the one I just showed you. That's the deep stretch, so you can have your athletes doing that. Jumpies, which I talked about, there's another one. You'll see athletes that go down, they'll go on their toes. As you're doing jumpies with your athletes, really trying to work them so that they stay back on their heels and pushing off with the whole bottom of their foot. It's all these things that you can do in wintertime training that, it's the little things that you can really, so you're not really ignoring them. It's not, you don't just want to coach them on the water, you want to coach them all the time to keep their interest. And that was another thing with this, like it was just another thing that I could sort of keep their interest to get them competing and doing something different. Calf stretch, the standing calf stretch, and then the toe lift with plate. I never did the toe lift with plate, but again, I did find it online. But the standing calf stretch is definitely something that I used to do in my weight routine, and it's really simple. You can do it on stairs, you can do it on a box like this guy's doing it. You can do it with weight or without weight. We used to do it with weight, and it's sort of funny, like when I was doing it when I was in college, we were doing it because we wanted to tone our calves, because we were rowers, we didn't have calves, and so that's the only reason we did it. But in essence, it was one of those things that it was actually helping us as athletes. It was giving us something else to work on and to get flexibility in our feet. Rowing and erging drills. To be honest, there really isn't a lot. The only thing a coach can do is just keep emphasizing the stretching, because when you're on the water with your athletes and you're riding next to them with the launch, you can't see their feet. You can't see what their feet are doing. You can see the after effect, but you can't really see it visually unless you're up really high and looking down. The thing about it is that you can emphasize, just like we saw with the guy when he went to the shorter slide, you know, the quarter, half, three-quarter slide stuff, like you can really focus it so that the athletes are feeling what it's like to come in, push away, you know, with their feet flat. And the more that you work on it, like, you know, if they can only get to quarter or half slide, they still have their feet flat, they're coming in, pushing away. And I think one of the things that you'll find with it as well, not only you'll start to work the front end stuff, the back end will actually start to be improved as well. So by that, if your feet are staying planted and flush, you can get a nice push and then actually have a lot of room at the finish. So, and then the last one that I had was feet out. And the reason for feet out is sort of that same thing at the back end. It forces them to really feel the pressure on the heel cup in the boat so that their feet are down. I always talked about balance with my athletes as being like taking your hands off of the handlebars of a bicycle and riding without your hands on the bicycle. You're balancing with your hips and you're balancing with your feet, or being on a unicycle. You're not trying to balance like most athletes. They'll grab the handle and they'll balance like this rather than balancing down low like being on a bicycle. So it's just those analogies. God, I'm close. I think I'm going to hit it right again. So again, this is my last slide. So the benefits of the good ankle flexibility: heel stay down, balance. It's just all just a recap. The foot stays solid against the foot stretchers for power application. And you just equate it to squats, cleans, jumpies, all those things. It's all about keeping your feet planted and pushing off. Ability to ease into the catch. You know, I used to talk about with my athletes having like a balloon underneath their feet. So as they're coming forward, the balloon is filling up with air, and as they're pushing, they're trying to squeeze the air out as fast as they can without popping the balloon. And then keeping the shoulders forward during the push, and then having the stronger position, like I said before, with the squat or the clean. So I mean, that's really it. It's so simple, and that's why I thought this was a good topic for this, because it's quick, it's concise, it doesn't take a lot of time. I mean, if you're having a 2-minute meeting or a 5-minute meeting, getting your athletes to sit like that and getting that idea, it'll work their flexibility quite a bit. So that's all I have. How much time do I have for Q&A? Oh, that's it? Oh. Oh, man. Any questions? Quick! Yes?
I guess on the other end of things, how do you deal with athletes that are, say, over-flexible and getting into that weaker position?
In the weaker position, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, like they're over-pressing, their knees are going past their...
Oh, where their heels are coming up?
No, their heels are staying down, their knees are actually going past.
I have never seen that.
I've got like 4 of them.
Do you really? Unbelievable. You know, that's a good question. I wasn't anticipating that. That's a great question. I mean, I guess the thing that I would say to that, just in quick sort of thought process, trying not to look like an idiot, and that I know what I'm talking about, is really get that one of the things that my athletes really gravitated to was that concept of the balloon. I mean, it sounds really stupid, but like you talk about, okay, you're letting you're coming in you're coming in light. You're not trying to keep the balloon compressed. You're trying to let the balloon fill up with air, and then you're trying to push the air out as quickly as you can. I mean, it's that emphasizing of that ease into the catch rather than the acceleration into the catch. I think that's the big component. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to give an answer to something like that because I've never seen it. So I don't know. That might be a good question for Chris, because Chris has seen everything. Yeah, right. Yeah, stronger up. Yeah.
I have a couple rowers who, they're still trying to get to their peak height. They're still throwing, 14, 15, but their backs, the blockies are hunched over, and it's just because of how they are, not because they're purposely hunched
Right,
over.
right.
Having a hard time squatting. I don't know if it's because of their back or if it's because of the ankle flexibility, but I can't seem to, get them to sit up straight when they're going down.
You know, the only thing, and I got 9 seconds if I can just go over real quick, please. The only thing that I would say is, and this is for another talk, and this is something that I got into in the 10, 15 years ago, is a lot of core strengthening stuff. I mean, especially with younger athletes. Like I worked with freshmen for a long time, and I did a lot of core strengthening stuff, like on the Swiss ball. There's so many things out there, and simple things like just doing an ab circuit for the athletes. I mean, that's the thing as junior coaches that you guys have to deal with. You're dealing with skeletons that are changing and morphing and stuff on a day-to-day basis, more or less. And so, but that's the thing that, you know, that you can work on that is so good for the athletes. It protects their stomach, it protects their back, it's great for their posture. I mean, I'm a firm believer, like all the coaches that I know, they still do, like on the elite level, and they all do core, they all do abs. It's a big part of their routine, and I would strongly encourage you to implant that into your workout regime as well. Yeah. Wow, and it wasn't even planned.